is advised.
Hey everyone, welcome back to Board Games Unlocked, and today I'm doing a how to play on Trickerion Legends of Illusion. So, normally what I do with how to plays is I will be explaining the setup and then what the game's about, and then going into, obviously, how to play the game. So, what I will not be including in this how to play is the expansion, the Dark Alleys expansion. And this is just the base game of Trickerion. I know there's an expansion coming out from Kickstarter. I might do a how to play explaining what that expansion does and what all that brings to the table, but for now this is just going to be the base game. So let's go and see how to set up Trickerion. Okay, so the first thing that you're going to do is you will be placing the main game board in the middle of the table or somewhere where everyone can reach it. Now there are two sides to this board. One has the Dark Alley section, which is the expansion, and I will not be going over that in this how to play. You can denote that by the Dark Alley at the bottom right, or there is a cat up at the top left. So you want to flip it on the back, and then that will show that is going to be the main game board. There's nothing over here in the Dark Alley, even though it says it, so ignore that, and then the cat symbol will not be there. Then what you will do is you will grab the Magician cards, and there are 4 classes. They're all color-coded. You have gray, orange, blue, and green, and you will take out the cards at the bottom right that say 36. 36 is only used in the Dark Alley expansion, so there's 1, and then there's going to be 16. So you will separate those, and you will put them up at the top. Let's see, right up here, right above downtown, based off of their magician school. So that's where the escapist goes, and you have, I think it's mechanical, then illusionist right there, and then you have whatever that symbol is. I can't remember. So that's where those 4 classes of schools will go. You don't need to shuffle the decks or anything like that. You might just want to have them in order based off the numbers. There's 1 and 16 for each of the 4 schools, because whenever you go there and you get a new spell, you get to look at which one you want to learn. So shuffling doesn't really do anyone any good. So that is the first thing that you're going to do. The next thing that you're going to do is you're going to go down to the market row, which is the bottom left, and it'll say market row. And you will grab one of each of the basic components. You have metal, you have linen, metal, wood, and glass. And you will place them in these 4 available slots. The dots at the bottom indicate their level. There are 2 other levels. There are level 2 ingredients and level 3 ingredients. So you will place those like so. That shows that those are the ingredients that are available for purchase in the market. And then for the other, like the excess ones that you have, you can just put off to the side like that, or wherever benefits you the most. But that is the second thing that you will do. The next thing that you will do is you are going to create the performance deck. These are the cards that you go to actually perform your tricks. And there are 3 types of stage cards, is what they're called. There are the Riverside cards, which are yellow. You have the Grand Magorian, which are orange. And then you have the Magnus Pantheon, which are red. These are not used in the base game, once again denoted by the cat up at the top right. Those are only for the Dark Alley expansion, so you can set those aside. So you're going to create the performance deck, which consists of taking the Riverside cards and the Grand Morian cards, shuffling each deck separately and taking 2 from the top, 2 from each. So I have 2 Riverside and then 2 Grand Magorian. And then you will take the 2 Riverside and you will place them on top of the 2 Grand Magorian, and you will set that off to the side. Then what you will do is you will actually fill out the available stage slots from the remaining cards. Not from the performance deck, which you just created, but from essentially the remaining Riverside cards. Before I do that, you might notice that there are some of these cards in your game, which have this symbol up at the top. This is for the 2-player variant, the Dueling Magicians variant, so you can ignore those as well unless you are playing with 2 players. Now, I'm going to be setting this up as a 4-player game, but there are some iterations if you are playing with fewer. But anyway, so how you set up the available stages is number of players minus 1. So you would take 1 and flip that up, and then flip it up there from left to right, and then right in that corner. So then the remaining cards will go back in the box, and from now on you will be pulling from this performance deck. But these are the available stages to perform on at the beginning of the game. The next thing that you're going to do is you're going to place all the remaining components and stuff like that over off to the side. As like I said, there are the basic, then the level 2s, and the level 3s. You will place coins off in a pile, and you can organize this however you want. But there are 2 types of coins. Silver is 1, gold is 5, and then the Trickerion shards, which are, ignore that big one. That big one I believe is for first player. But you will take all the shards, set them off onto a pile. And then the last thing for board setup is down here underneath the score tracker is the turn order, not the turn order, the how many rounds there are. And you will take this token and you will place it on the number 1 spot. And that is the board setup. So now for the player board setup. So everyone will get their own type of player board, and technically starting with the person who has last worn a top hat gets to pick first. To each their own. If you have a friend who wears a top hat regularly, I would highly suggest finding a new friend. But or you can. This is the perfect game for them. But they technically get to start, but you can really do it in whatever order you want. So there are 4 types of magicians corresponding to the 4 types of schools, and you place the cards earlier during setup. But there are the mechanical, which was the gear symbol. The weird one that I was like, what the hell is this? Is spiritual. And then you have the chains, which are escape, and the eye is optical. Just for the sake of how to play, I did the escapist. So you will choose that board, and they're all the same, except they have, their things for their symbol. And you will pick your magician, and there are 2 different types for each class. So for example, for the escapist, there's a male and female, which I think is really neat. So you have the Master of Chains, which is male, and then the Red Lotus, which is female, and you can tell that they are the escapist class based off of their symbol up at the top. But me being a male, I will choose that, and that will be placed in that spot with that symbol. So you'll place that there. Then you will get a variety of things for that magician. So one of the things that you will get is you will look for their poster that just has their picture on it, and then failure means certain death, and then Master of Change, death-defying sensation. So that'll just go off to the side, and then the other ones will go away. Then you have your trick and symbol markers. Now, this is probably one of the most confusing things about this game is just your trick and symbol markers. So the symbol markers, or the trick markers, correspond to the faces of the aces, or the suits. They're called suits in a deck of cards. So you'll have 1 of each, and they'll be white, and you can place those off to the side. And then you will have, corresponding to the color that you chose, I chose red, you will have 4 of these markers that are corresponding to these 4 here. So you can just organize that however you want, but there's the clubs, the hearts, the spades, and then the diamonds. And you'll just put those wherever. Then you get to choose components equal to a value of 2. And this one kind of goes hand in hand with your starting trick. So what I'm kind of going to do here is I would suggest looking at the tricks, because you get to pick one trick that starts with your magician's school. So a level 1. So since I am an escapist, I would get to choose a trick from the level 1 category on the escape part. So, and there are 4. So I can take Stocks Escape, I can take Burning Mummy, I can take Water Tank Escape, ooh, that's a classic, or Barricade Barrels. Well, the Burning Mummy sounds really cool, but that requires oil and 3 fabric, and you can tell because there's, let's see if I can get that, there we go. And oil, and then the 3 different layers, that means I need 3 fabric. So if I mean, I could build up to that. Or the Barricaded Barrels just needs 2 wood. So I'm going to take that one, and that will get placed up at the top, and then the remaining cards will go back up, you know, up at the top in downtown. The reason why this matters is because if that was my starting thing, I could take components equal to what I need. And like I said, I need 2 wood. So I'm going to take 2 wood. And you'll take those from the supply. So off to the side, whenever you set the components, you'll take those. And this is the cost down here. So you could take 2 level 1s, or you could take 1 level 2. Like I could have just taken the oil and start with that. But I'm going to take the corresponding components, and you will place them down here. And you do not, like if you have the same component, they stack on top of one another, not to fill up space. So that is that. Then technically you're supposed to pick the components and then your card. But I mean, to each their own. You can do it in that order, but I think it's easier for everyone if they kind of know what they're getting into, so they're not behind just because someone happened to pick a card or the components and the card they got lucky on. So then if you meet your starting trick's component requirements, then you get to receive the trick with a number of trick markers equal to, you know, that number of overlapping squares. So what that means is you basically assign what trick these are, and these are pretty much just for like visibility, to know what trick you have, if that makes any sense. So for example, I'm going to make the Barricaded Barrels my spade trick, and that will forever, unless I replace it, forever be my spade trick. Okay, so whenever I go to perform it, all you would have to do is, if these were placed on the performance cards, then you know, oh, I'm doing the Barricaded Barrels trick. So that's kind of their way of denoting ease of, I guess, visibility, to look at a scorecard and be like, oh, okay, I know what trick I'm doing. So since I have the components available to already do this, I assign a trick to it. I did the spade. Then you get a number of trick markers equal to the number of overlapping squares. So I can perform this trick twice with these components. So you would take 2 of the corresponding suits that I did, so I did spade, and I will take 2 of those and place those there. So that's kind of the player setup for taking components and tricks. If I only took the oil for the Burning Mummy trick, I wouldn't be able to do that because I didn't have all the required components for that. So that's kind of something, if you want to do a better trick, you know, earlier on in the game, you're going to have to build up for it potentially, but if you want to jump out the gate with a trick that you can potentially do, like the Barricaded Barrels trick, then I already came prepared. So I have the wood, I have assigned a trick to it, and then since I have the wood, I already can do that trick, so I take the corresponding tokens available for that. So that is the first thing that you do for player setup. Alright, the next thing you're going to do is you're going to get the assignment cards, and everyone starts with the same hand of starting cards. You get 2 workshops, you get 2 downtown, you get 2 market row, and you get 3 theater cards. So you can just grab those, and then, I mean, they'll have that back. And these are the cards that you're going to use to basically tell where your workers are going to go. So you can just grab those cards and set them off to the side. The next thing that you're going to do is you're going to grab each player's respective discs of color, and they will all have a icon on them that correlate to, you know, who that is. So the top hat is your magician, which will be placed right there on top of the magician spot. The little hands, like so, are apprentices, and you start with 1 apprentice, and one, and your magician. And then the others are, you know, other apprentices that you can hire. And then you have one for each type of specialist that you can also hire. And you can set those off to the side, but you will probably be getting one because you pick a specialist at the beginning of the game as well. So that is the next thing that you do. Alright, so the next thing that you do is you are going to pick a specialist, and there are 3 to choose from. The first one is the manager, and what's also cool about this is they are double-sided as well, male and female, and so you get to pick, you know, who you want, what gender you want your manager to be, and you will get a bonus for starting the game with them. So if you pick the manager, then you get to start with extra resources. So the same thing you did earlier, where you get to pick resources of a value of 2, then you get to do once again. So for example, if I picked the manager, then I could pick that oil, or I could pick something else if I'm wanting another spell. So like if I started with the burning mummy, I could have started with 2 of the fabric or linen, and then pick the manager and pick the oil, and then that would be okay. Whenever you pick a specialist, you will place them off to the side like so, and then you'll grab their corresponding token. So if I pick the manager, I'd grab my components, and then I would place her token right in the spot, just like you did with the magician. So that is the manager. The next one is the engineer. So engineer symbol is the wrench, once again female and male. And what they do is they allow you to start with an additional spell. So like the barricaded barrels, I could pick the engineer and then grab another level 1, and I could do the burning mummy. And the reason I keep bringing that up is because that's a cool spell. So like you would grab her or him, and then grab another level 1, place it up here, and then you also denote that with an icon similar to what you did here. So essentially you can have up to 4 total spells that you're trying to perform. And the only way to be able to do 4 spells is by hiring the engineer. Now the last specialist is the assistant. So once again, female, male, your choice. And what they do is essentially you start with another apprentice, so that you do not have to pay, and that is very important. Doesn't mean a whole lot now because you don't know how to play the game, but just know you don't have to pay them. They work for free, and so essentially you start with 4 workers with the apprentice. So sure, I'll pick the apprentice. So you'll place them off to the side, and then I will grab her bow and another apprentice. Yippee! So that is pretty much the last thing that you'll do for the player board setup. The next thing you do, I mean, this is going to be quick, is everyone gets a shard to start with, and then you get a number of coins based off of initiative order. So if you are first, then you start with 10 coins. If you're second, you start with 12. If you're third, you get 14. And if you're fourth, you get 16. That's just how it goes, but technically you don't do initiative order yet. You do it at the start of the actual game. But just know it's 10, 12, 14, 16. So if you're last, you're getting more coins. And that is the player setup. The very last thing you do before actually starting the game is you determine initiative order. And how you do that is you will grab your a wooden disc of each player's color, and then you will you'll shuffle those up and you'll randomly place them. Now, I usually do how to plays with just one board, just because it's easier. But you'll place them like so in first, second, third, and fourth randomly. And then that's also how you'll determine, like I said earlier, starting coins. But then if you're on the second, third, and fourth slot in the initiative order, you receive 2, 4, or 6 additional coins. So there's that to remember. But then what you also do after that is over here, right there where those wooden pieces are. That is the The fame track. So everyone starts at 5 because it is possible to lose fame, but everyone starts on 5, so we're kind of known. And you can place those there, or technically you take the second the second one disc and you'll place them there just so they can stack atop each other. But then that is it for setup of Trickerion. And that's setup. So in Trickerion, years ago there was a famous magician that just happened to vanish, but he believed that there was power in the Trickerion stone that gave him, that actually had, you know, magic imbued in it and gave him the ability to do his tricks. So we are competing magicians trying to gain enough fame to be able to be worthy of this stone. So Trickerion is, like I said, a game about magicians where you are going to be gathering resources to be able to perform your spells and gain enough fame. The game is played over a series of rounds, not a series of 5 total rounds, but a series of phases within those rounds, just like a typical board game, you know, where you do a little bit of additional setup for that round, and then everyone places their assignment cards to denote where their workers are going. And there's some smart placement about where those, how you play those cards, because there's only enough spots and only enough action points to be able to do everything that you're going to want to do. So there is a little bit of card play there, and then a little bit of, you know, management based off of how you're going to perform your tricks and when you're going to perform them and what most benefits you. So that's a little overview over Trickerion. And then now let's go into how to play. Okay, so the first thing you do in every single round at the beginning is the roll dice phase. Now there are 6 dice in the game, and they are color coordinated based off of where they're going to go in downtown. So what you'll do is you shall roll them, and you will place them where they go. So the gray dice are going to go in the left side. The white dice are going to go up at the top, and then the black dice are going to go off to the right. A little bit of explanation. These are where you can hire new people, new specialists. This is where you can learn new spells, the white dice, and this is where you can get more money from the bank. And I'll explain a little bit more about what all those dice do and how you utilize them, but that is the first thing you do in a round. The second thing you do is you'll set the initiative order. How this works is the player with the least amount of fame goes first. So obviously this is skipped in the very first turn because you randomize turn order and everyone's the same. But in future games, last means first is how that goes. And then if there's ever a tie, then you just kind of flip the turn order. So like if it was like red, green, yellow, and blue, and red and green were tied for least, then it would go green then red, and you just kind of alternate that way. But that is the second thing that you do. The next thing you do also kind of has to go with the initiative order. You get to advertise, which gives you 2 fame points. So if you are first, which means you have the least fame, you can pay a coin to advertise your magician and your spells, and hey, look at me, please come see me, I'm so desperate. If you are first, then you pay a coin, and then you take your poster and you place that up at the top, and that shows that you are advertising that round, and then you just gain the 2 fame, and fame is gained over here. So if I paid my coin, yippee, then now I have 7 fame, and you just do that. If you're second, it costs 2 coins. If you're third, it costs 3 coins. And if you're fourth, it costs 4 coins. And you all will only gain 2 fame. So if you're last, that means you're probably doing well. Hey, I have the most fame. People recognize me, the Master of Chains. Woo! Actually, I'm last, so I suck. But if you were last, 4 coins for 2 fame. So that's up to you. But everyone gets a chance to simultaneously decide if they are going to advertise. The next thing that everyone does, this is the assignment phase. So you will take your assignment cards, your 3 theater, 2 markets, 2 downtown, and 2 workshops, and you will all choose these secretly and place them face down. And this is where you're going to be sending your workers, and these are your workers right here: the magician, the apprentice. In my case, I have the assistant and another apprentice. So you will look at the board, and there are 3 spots that you can go. You can go, technically 4, sorry, I lied. There's downtown, the market row, your own workshop, and the theater. So what you will do is you will take your spots, and it's like, well, I really want my magician to go to downtown and get me some money. And I want my apprentice here to go to the market row, and I want my assistant to go to also downtown, and I don't want this guy to go anywhere. A couple things to keep in mind. These icons here, these little lightning bolts, indicate how many action points you get, and that'll come into play later when I explain the locations. But that's like, so if you get 3 action points from your magician and 1 from there, that might determine where you want to go, because some people might also want to go to that same spot, and it's all based on turn order on when you send them out. So you take these cards and you'll like, okay, well, downtown, and then workshop, and then market, and then theater. Sure, actually, let's reverse that. Theater for the apprentice, and then market for the assistant. So those all will go face down, and the other cards get set off to the side. So that is the assignment phase. Now, once everyone has done that, then it goes to the place character phase. But before I go to that, I'm going to explain what everything on the board does. Okay, downtown. Lot of stuff happened in downtown in Magoria. I think it's the name of this place. Hey, I was right, Magoria. There are 3 things you can do. So whenever you send a worker there, or a person, if you're the first to go, then you have a spot at these slots, and these are modifiers depending on where you place them, so, and who you place. So for example, if my magician is going here to downtown, which I did pick for him, he has 3 action points. Alright, awesome. You can put him, if you're first and you place him there, now I have 5 action points to use here. And each of these spots will show how much they cost. So this is where you place them. If I wasn't the first to go, but in a 3-player game I was second, then I get an additional 1, which means I have 4. In a 4-player game, which I'm using, then you get to then you add another 1, so that's also 4. And if everyone decided to go downtown and I was last, then I wouldn't get any, but I'd still have my 3. You always have what is showing on your token. So let's say I'm first to go. That is 5. Well, this is where you utilize the dice. So in this case, that sucks. Like, an X means nothing, which means there is no one there to hire. They must all have gotten jobs. Yay. But down here are actions that everyone can spend. So I have 5 total actions I can spend here, and they don't, accumulate from round to round. You use them or lose them. This icon means that I get to choose a face that I want. So I can spend 2 action points of my 5, so now I have 3 left, to choose a die. It's like, okay, well, do I want an apprentice? Alright. Or do I want another specialist? Well, you can only ever have 1 of each type. So I already have an assistant. Well, let's say I really need a manager. So I can do that and spend my 2 actions. And now I have 3. So now I can spend this, or not really spend it, but take it, turn it to an X, and then now I grab the manager board, place it off to the side, and then grab the corresponding token, and then at the end of the round, then she'll become available to me. So that's something, a little bit of dice manipulation that you can do. That's 2 actions. What I could have also done is spend 1 action and just re-roll it and hope I get something. Hey, awesome, I got the manager. So now, with the rest of my 3 actions, I can take that, turn it into an X, and then get my manager. Same way, that one's a little bit of risky, but it doesn't cost as much. And then this one costs more, but you for sure are going to get what you want. So that's the hiring dice. The ones up here, this is how you get your spells. So that are available in the Dalgard residence. So, and you don't have to grab spells that correspond to your school. You can grab whatever. So here, I can grab a spiritual spell. Alright, so I would take that, move it to an X, and then search for a spell that I want. And you can only do, at the beginning of the game anyway, equal to your higher fame level. So, right now, at level 1, I can only grab a level 1 spell, and there are 4. Once your fame is 16 or higher, then you can do level 2 spells. And you place those, but you do not get the resources. You still have to go get the resources. You do get to assign a spell symbol to it, but you don't get the trick tokens next to it. So you will have to do that at the workshop and prep for that spell. So the question mark is wild. You can get whatever you want, but don't forget that once you use a die, then you have to turn it to an X. So other people who are in their turns would either have to roll or change it. Next is a very simple one. Is you go to the bank, spend 3 action points to grab a die. So hey, there's a 5 here, so I grab 5 coins. Yay! Gold is 5, and I just put that over there. One thing that you can do in every location except the theater is you can spend a stone to add 1 more action point. So 5 is kind of, okay, that's a useless number unless I want to change something and then grab it, which in this case that would all suck if that was the roll. So obviously I would want to change it, and 5 is a pretty good number. But let's say it ended up being, you know, awesome, 6 and 6. Yippee. But I can only grab 1 of those dice if I only have 5 action points. Well, I can spend a stone, make it 6 action points, stone gets discarded, and now I have 6 action points. Boom! Gonna grab those 2, 12 coins. Bam! Bammerino, 12 coins, and then that would be the magician's turn. He just got a huge loan from the bank. Or you don't have to do that. You can grab money and then go hire someone, or grab 2 spells, or do whatever you want. Spend all 6 to roll for whatever reason. But that is what you do in downtown. Alright, the next section that you go to, or you can go to, is the market row. This is where you will buy components that you use for the spells that you acquire. So, same thing. I'm going to keep using the magician as an example just because it gives me more opportunity. So if I sent my magician to the market, then I would get the same thing. 3 plus the 2 if I'm first, so that's 5. And you can do the same thing with the Trickerion shard and give yourself 1 extra action. So the actions that you can do here are you can buy components, you can barter to make them cheaper, you can do a quick order, or you can basically do another order. So the buy action costs 1 action point, and you can buy up to 3 components with that. So the level of the components that you are buying are equal to how much they cost. So level 1s cost 1 coin, level 2s cost 2 coins, and level 3s cost 3 coins. The problem with this is you can only buy components that are in stock. So these 4 basic components are what you can order, and so you'll have to actually order some to be able to buy others that you need later on down the line. Now, the barter action makes them cost one cheaper, but it can never go down to 0, and you can only do this action in tandem to a buy. So let's say there was a level 3 here, and so if I want to make this cheaper, I could spend 2 actions to make this cost 1, and then the buy to actually buy it, and that would only cost me 1. You can never make something free. I don't think you could ever barter so well that someone's like, you know what, just take it, man. So that's kind of the, not barter, bargain, barter, whatever, same thing. So that is that. A very, very important distinction, because this is something that I got wrong my first time playing Trickerion, is whenever you buy components, you buy them from, or you buy them and you take them from the supply. You do not take them from here. So if I were buying 3 goods, I wouldn't take these 3 and then just leave that empty and you have to order new ones. No, these are always going to be here to show what's available. And then if I bought 3 glass, I would take 3 from the general supply and then place them onto my board. Now, whenever you place spots, you place them, you're most likely going to put them in spaces where they are, available to the spell. So in this case, I already have the components that I need. But, for example, if I had another spell that required, fabric, then I bought 3 fabric and those get placed here. Like I said in the setup, components of the same type stack on top of each other, but different ones. Like if I needed the fabric here, those would go there. And you can only ever have 3 of one type of good, meaning that no spell is going to require you to have more than 3 of something else. But the, who is it? Yeah, the engineer, not the engineer, the manager's board, for example, that actually counts her special ability besides the bonus you get at setup. Means that a good that you have on this slot counts as an additional good. So this metal here actually counts as 2 metal, even though you only have the 1 there. That does count towards your limit of 3. So essentially you would have 2 components in her spot, and that would count as 3 of that good. But that is the barter and purchase action. The next action that you can take is over on this section, these blank slots, and that is ordering. So if you need a component that is not there, you need to order it. So if I needed oil, then you would spend 1 action, and you take a component from the supply and you place them in the order. So whenever, okay, great, I'll place that there. So at the end of the basically the phase, in the orders arrive phase, then these actually would get replaced. So kind of where they are in this spot is what will overtake what's over here. So in the orders arrive phase, this would replace the glass, and the glass would go away. And that is how. So it's like if someone else needed glass, well, great. They'd have to order it. And let's say they place it down there, then that would replace the wood. Wood would go away, and it kind of cycles like that. The reason why I said it's very important for you to know that you take components from the general supply and not from here is because my initial thought was when you ordered stuff and they showed up and I thought that someone could easily come here and take the good that you had to wait on. And I'm like, that's incredibly frustrating because people can just block you for absolutely no reason except just to screw you over. So that is the order phase, or the order action. There is the quick order action that you can also do, and that costs 2 action points. And you place a component in the quick order slot, and then you can immediately buy it for that turn for 1 action, or not 1 action, yeah, for 1 action, but also for 1 extra coin. So if I really needed this oil, it cost me 2 action, I place that there. Now it's going to cost me 3 coins to actually just order that, instead of just the 2 that it would normally cost. So that's that, and this goes away. Like, it's only available for that turn. So it's, like I said, it's a quick order, comes in at a premium, and then I can purchase it. So that is the market row action. The workshop is the 3rd location that you can go, and this one's a little bit different because your actions will vary depending on which specialists that you have, but I'll explain all the specialists' abilities as well. But if you decide to go to your workshop, you have 2 spots that you can go to. You can go here and do a couple things. So if I went here, there's no modifier for that, so I have 3 action points. You can prepare a spell, and essentially what this means is this is where these tokens come come into play. So if I had the Breath of Life spell, sure, and it was assigned to hearts, whenever you get a spell, you don't get these prepare tokens like you do at the beginning of the game. But the Breath of Life, it would cost 1 action for me to take a heart token and place it on that spot. However, there's a couple limitations to the prepare a trick action. Is you have to have the components available to be able to prepare it. And so I would need two linen, one metal, and a saw to do the Breath of Life spell. If I don't have those, then you cannot prepare a trick. If you do have those, if those are available in your row of components and stuff, then you're good. But the neat thing about this is you do not spend these components. So if you have 1 saw and you have 2 cards that require a saw, you do not need, like, you don't need 2 saws because you don't get rid of the components whenever you prepare the trick. But whenever you prepare, it's limited based on the number of action points that you have, just like everywhere else. And you place a number of trick markers on it equal to the number of overlapping squares. So in the barricaded barrels, for example, if I already used my tricks on the previous turn, but I wanted to do this again, I can spend 1 action point, 2 action points to place 2 tokens here. Bam, bam, bam. So that's pretty much how simple that is. You can also spend a Trickerion shard to increase your action points. So if I had all these and all the components I had existed, I can spend all 3 action points to put two shards or two tokens there, and then 1 token there, and now both of these tricks are prepared for the theater phase and stuff like that. Now, if you have your specialist, so the apprentice, for example, or not the assistant, her ability is allowing you to move an assistant over to this spot. So now this is kind of useless if you start with the assistant because you already have an apprentice there. So it's like, okay, I don't need to do that. But if you don't start with her and you start with someone else and you get her later, you won't start with that extra apprentice. So then, as 1 action point, you can move an apprentice over to that spot. And the reason why you would want to do that is because they don't get paid. They work for free, only if they're over on that board. If they stay over here, they will require payment, but that's kind of her special ability. If you have the manager, you can spend an action point to move resources over to her spot, and the reason why you would want to do that is because, like I said, her spots act as if the component is 1 more than it is. So if I had a level 3 lock here, it would actually count as if I had 2 level 3 locks there. So you can manage your components better. And then if you have your engineer over there, then you can move one of your tricks to the trick slot or exchange the trick with another trick over there. So that's just some of your extra abilities depending on your specialist. And who knows, maybe throughout the game you'll have all 3 of them, so you'll have all of those available. But other than that, that is everything at the workstation. And the last spot that you can go to in this game is the theater. Now this is where you are going to be actually setting up your stage times and your spells that you've been prepping and all of that to actually show them off and get fame points and get money and become the best magician in the city. So there are 4 weekdays within the spot. There goes Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. And each of these will basically benefit or detriment you, depending on how you want to do it. So your characters are only limited to these spots, these days. So for example, like if I had my manager go here on the Thursday slot backstage, I couldn't then send my magician to perform on Sunday. That makes no sense. Like, the manager's is going to be like, what the hell, why am I here? Then, that's one restriction. The other restriction is only your magician can go up front. Everyone else goes backstage and then kind of help you and get you some extra stuff if they are back there, which I'll explain in a sec. But just know, as a top hat at the front, because obviously your engineer or your apprentice isn't going to be performing the trick, because who the hell cares about them? So, one action that you can do at the theater is you can set up a trick. And this is where these playbills come in handy. So, let's take a quick old gander at those. So whenever you are prepping a trick, you choose a playbill, and there are 3 available at the beginning of the game in a 4-player game. You take one of your markers from a prepped trick, so like these down here, and these markers here. So that's my barricaded barrels. I take one of those markers, and remember this is for 1 action point, and I place it on a spot in one of these zones. So they're broken up into squares, or diamonds in this case, and circles. So whenever you can place them wherever you want. It doesn't have to go, top to bottom or bottom to top. It's just a free spot. So there are a couple rule placements on how you place these. First of all, it has to correspond with the trick category, meaning that the barricaded barrels is a escapist trick, and there are these 4 symbols that, let's see, there we go, these 4 symbols on the corners, and that's what must be in the circle whenever you place it. So if I wanted to do that, woo, then since it's an escapist trick, that has to go in the middle. If it was my Breath of Life, which I did prepare, if it was the Breath of Life, then that means the spiritual one would have to go in the middle of the circle. But we're doing my barricade, and that's one thing. The other thing is that you cannot ever have one of the same color or of the same symbol in the circle. So, like, for example, I couldn't then do a second trick and then place it like that, because it's the same symbol, the same like the same spades, not the same type of trick, but the same spades, and then it can't be red. So, like, for example, it would have to be a blue players or a green players or whatever. So that's the placement of your tricks, and thematically what this represents is this is the playbill of that day in Thursday. So just imagine if you went to a theater on Thursday. You're like, hey, we're gonna go for a night on the town and have some fun, go see some magic, and you go up there Thursday night, and he does the same trick twice in a row. You're like, wow, that was a waste of time. That's kind of thematically what it's representing. So that's that. That's why you can't do that. But I could do this. I could do a spiritual one. Even though it's red, it is not the same symbol. So that means, hey, it's still me, guys, but I'm doing my barricaded barrels trick and my Breath of Life trick. Ba-boom! Switching it up on you. So that's just kind of the placement rules. Then, there are what's called trick links. And this is when 2 things of the same, two trick categories of the same symbol are in that circle. So, if you get a bonus for links. So for example, I don't have any out. Here we go. I got you guys covered. So for example, if someone went to place this and they also had an escapist trick, bam, like that. That is creating a link because there are 2 of the same symbols there. There are the 2 escapist symbols in that circle. So you'll get some extra bonuses towards the end of the like the theater phase. Essentially, you'll get a fame or a coin. It's all depending on your fame threshold, meaning that Level 1s, you'll get a fame or a coin. Level 2s, which are your orange symbols, you would get 2 fame or 2 coins. And then level 3s, flame threshold of 36 or higher, you get 3 fame or 3 coins for each link that you create. Additionally, if there's a shard symbol, like there is on this playbill, like, here I can show you, like this, then each person that created a link would get a shard. So that's something that you might want to strive for, or not strive for, if you don't want your opponents to also get a shard, because, hey, shards give extra actions. So that is essentially your set up a trick action. I should mention also, real quick, that the person who created the link gets the bonus. So if yellow was the person who placed his and created that link, then they get the coin or the fame immediately, not the other person. But both players would get that shard. So that's just a distinction between the link if you're creating a link. The second action that you can do is, for 1 action point, you can reschedule. And basically what that means is, I'm going to move another playbill down, but let's say that over time this is looking a little bit too crowded. You're not going to get, like if the yellow player put another token down here, you're like, ugh, I'm not really going to benefit from that because he has 2 spells and I'm just kind of like there. You can spend an action to move your trick to another playbill, like so. You do not create links that way though. So if there was another spell or another trick being prepared here, and it had the escapist symbol in the circle, and I move over and create that, you do not get a bonus for creating a link that way, but you might be able to jump in on some abilities, or getting some extra bonuses for being included in that playbill. So that's something that you might want to do. That is the reschedule action. The last technically action that you do, you don't really spend action points on it, but it is the perform action, and this is whenever, only your magician can do this, and this is whenever you place your magician in the front row, meaning that you are going to perform that night. And you won't do it then, but you will do it in the subsequent performance phase, which only happens if there are magicians performing. So if no one places their magicians there, then the performance phase isn't going to happen. But that's that. You can also have your magician help backstage, like everyone else can, but you're not going to be able to perform because your magician has to be up front to be able to do that. So, I mean, you're just helping set up, I guess. You can go there and help set up on specific days and be like, haha, I got this slot booked, and then, the following round you can actually jump on and prepare. So that's pretty much the theater phase. So jumping back a little bit, I went over all of the places that you can go to, but initially I was actually talking about the character placement, like whenever you choose your cards, the assignment phase. Whenever you choose your cards and you place them face down. Once everyone has done that, then everyone reveals their cards. Like that, like so. So once that's done, then in turn order, they all choose who they want to go. So I'm first player. I really want my magician to get some stuff, so I will go to downtown. Now, obviously I wouldn't be going to downtown if all the dice were X's or if there was nothing there that I want, but so you kind of have to manage, what's on the board and what your opponents might do, because if you're last in turn order and there's a lot of good stuff at downtown, for example, you may not want to go there, so you probably won't assign your magician, the one that has the most action points, to go to downtown because others might be going there as well, and you might be just wasting your time. So that's kind of why I explained what all locations do, because that's the strategy in the card play. But since I'm first, obviously I'm going to have first dibs at downtown. Now he goes there, and then you do all the, they place on the locations, and then you basically do the turn, like at the location. Then there's the workshop. That's with the apprentice. He can just go up there. No one can block you. You can't go into anyone else's workshop. Then you have the theater phase. I can send my assistant to go up there and snag a spot and start prepping for some stuff. And I'll explain a little bit more about the point phase in the performance place. But you can have them go there and start prepping spells and for a playbill. And then if you have an extra person or your other people, you can send them to other various locations. One thing about not sending people. So for example, if I don't want this apprentice here to go into the workshop, then he is an idle character. And that basically if you choose not to place them, you're like, never mind, I'm not going to go there. They don't have to get paid at the what's it called? The end turn. At the end turn, the very end of the round, they don't get paid because they didn't do anything. So that's some way you might want to save some money. For example, if I had my apprentice and I was like, ooh, I really don't want to go to the theater. That's kind of, someone took the day that I really want to work. So I'm not going to send my apprentice there. Not my apprentice, my assistant. Then she doesn't go, great, I do not have to pay her 2 coins. And that's what this coin marker is here. For each assistant you have, everyone that does something costs a coin. And then every specialist you have costs 2 coins if they do something, if they are not idle. Your magician obviously doesn't, you don't pay him because that's you. So that's just me jumping back a little bit and explaining some things to keep in mind whenever you're playing these cards face down and the idle character spot. So now we are going to go to the performance phase. Alright, the performance phase. So this happens after everyone does their actions, and if there is a magician on the slots, the front of the slot, then they get to do their trick. So let's do this as an example. We have these 2 playbills. Oh, let's just say there's 1 playbill. Cool. Like so. Then, not in initiative order, but in day order. So from Thursday to Friday, let me just scan up a little bit. From Thursday to Friday is how the order goes. So, if you are going Thursday, that means you have first dibs at what card is being performed. And that'll matter for a variety of reasons. But what you will do is you will pick a playbill and you will perform all tricks on that card, even those that belong to other people. They're essentially guest performers while you're the main performer. So if we chose this one, yay! We chose that one, which you can't even see. Here we are. There we go. If we chose that one as the playbill, then I would do my barricade, and then the yellow player would do whatever trick that is for them. Then you get bonuses for that specific trick. Now, if we are looking at the card, like the barricaded barrels, each time I perform this trick, I get a fame and a coin. Yay! Fame and coin. And if I was doing the Breath of Life spell, that would give me 2 fame and 3 coin. So that is just kind of how you know what you're going to get each time you perform that spell. So if I did this one, that is my barricaded barrels trick, then I would get a fame and a coin. However, if you are going on Thursday, each trick that you do, you get -1 fame and -1 coin. So essentially, going with that particular spell, the barricaded barrels trick, I wouldn't get anything for doing that because, I guess it's Thursday and that's really kind of a lame trick to do on a Thursday night. You want to do extravagant stuff to make people want to come out on Thursday. Now, there are some modifiers, like I said, for Thursday, but if you go Sunday, you're picking the bill last. So, but if you happen to go on Sunday, you get +1 fame and +1 coin, because you're going last, and Sunday night is apparently, hey, this is our last fun time before we have to go to work and hate our lives on Monday. Yippee. So, the reason why potentially going first is important is because you get bonuses, and only for the performer. So what this means is that you will get a link bonus, so you will get a fame for each link trick in, and let me zoom in just to show this. For each link trick, you get a bonus, and that's what this symbol is here, or this box is here, because it shows if you're the performer, then you're going to get bonuses. So for every link trick, you get a fame. If you have a specialist that was there in backstage, you get a particular bonus. So if you had your engineer, you get a shard. If you had your assistant, you get 2 extra fame, and if you had your manager, you get 3 coins. Then at the bottom of every card, you get another performer bonus. So that would get me an extra shard. So what that means is, because you might be like, why would I ever go on Thursday? Let's say I had my apprentice and this was the playbill. Alright. So I'm going on Thursday. That's the card that I pick. The yellow person gets whatever he gets. Even though if he's not performing, he's not going to get that minus. Only I will. So yeah. So I'm going to get the -1 fame and -1 coins. So my barricaded barrels isn't going to net me anything. However, I'm going to get an extra fame because there's a linked spell, and I have my apprentice there, so I'm going to get 2 extra fame. So I'm going to get 3 total fame and a shard because I performed that playbill. So that's kind of, because it's like, if I really want to get that extra stuff on Thursday, and I don't, because what will happen is if I don't choose that bill, like let's say I wanted to go Sunday, and if I went Sunday and I was able to perform this playbill off, so let's kind of move this stuff over a little bit. Yeah. So if that was the case, which would net out really well, I would get 2 coins and 2 fame for my barricaded barrels, because apparently on Sunday it's awesome, except Thursday. Then I would get an extra fame because there's a linked spell, and since I have my apprentice back here, then I get 2 extra fame. So I would get a total of, what is that, 5 fame for performing on a Sunday, and a shard. So, but I'm going Sunday, so someone else on a Thursday, like the yellow player for example, could pick this card, and I would only get the 1 fame and the 1 coin because I'm not the performer on Thursday, but then that would go away. After you perform your spells, I keep calling them spells, after you perform your tricks, then that card gets discarded, and those tokens go back to the player. Meaning that, and whenever that's done, so like this would go back into your supply. It doesn't go back onto the card, so you have to prepare it again. But this card would get discarded. And then the tokens are reassigned. So if I'm going Sunday and then someone on Thursday chose that playbill, then I potentially don't have anything to choose from. So that's basically the performer phase. A little bit more complicated than a lot of other stuff in here, but there's a lot of player aids surrounding the theater, and in all reality it kind of is self-explanatory, because on your assignment phase you send people here to prep your spells. And one thing I did forget to mention, if you do go on Thursday, your backstage workers get 1 extra action point to prep on a Thursday. If you go on a Sunday, you have 1 less. So actually, if I sent my assistant here in a previous turn, she would only get 1 action to potentially prep a spell or anything like that. That's why sending your magician there could be beneficial, because if you go on a Sunday, you would have 2 actions to do stuff, but you wouldn't get to perform that same turn. But yeah, that's the performance phase. The very last thing that you do is the end turn phase, and this is where you return characters, orders arrive, and you pay wages. So the first thing you do is you pay wages. 1 coin gets paid for every used apprentice, except if you have the assistant with the apprentice, then that apprentice works for free. But all your specialists you pay 2 coins for, and used apprentices, actually used specialists as well. If anyone was idle, then they do not get paid. And if you cannot pay, you lose 2 fame for each coin not paid. So, if you have 3 coins and you had 2 specialists go out, you would have to pay 4 coins, but you only have 3, so you'd lose 2 fame for that, because they're probably walking around and be like, that guy, that buckaroo did not pay me. And then people hate you. They're like, wow, man, that magic's really good, except heard he's a really shitty guy. Then you return characters all back to the workshop. You place them in their spots from the board. So, like these guys, the magician and the apprentice, or the assistant, come back to their slots on the board. This is where you would get your token for, like, if I got the manager up here the previous turn, then she would go onto the spot. And then orders arrive, like, for example, if I ordered that, then that would then replace the spot. So, hey, this glass is no longer available, the oil is, and then stuff like that. And then you move performance cards, so kind of how they show up at the top right, like so. Like if this was the example, they cycle this way, so this would go in a 4-player game, that would go there, this would go there, this would go there, and then the new one would get placed like that. So, and then if it ever falls off, like over time, if this goes like this, woo, and then the 3rd round, this goes off, you move them all down like that, and then the Grand Magoria comes in, and obviously you can tell the higher the cards are, the more spots there are for tricks, because you're at a better theater, and you're like, yay, look at me, everyone. So you move performance cards, and then you remove posters from the initiative order, so the posters come off, and then you move the turn counter, which is down here. That's where that shard was, right there. So you would move that, and then you start over. You start over until the end of the 5th round. At the end of the 5th round, you get there's some extra bonuses that you would get. You get an extra fame for each unspent Trickerion shard. You get a fame for every 3 leftover coins, 2 fame for each apprentice, and 3 fame for each specialist. After your final calculation for everyone, whoever has the most fame is the winner. And that is Trickerion. If you think there's a lot of stuff going on, you're not entirely wrong. This game was made by Mind Clash Games, the same people who made Anachrony and, the one about emotions, Celestia or something like that. But they have a lot of intricate systems, but I do believe that everything works. Like, everything just kind of starts to make sense. I hope I did a good job at explaining how to play. I did not explain, there is a 2-player variant, the Duel of the Wizard, that's not Duel of the Magicians, and those use special performance cards. They're basically, they have built-in links, built-in tokens that the 2 players can play off of, and then you're limited to where you can go onto the spots. And I did not explain the Dark Alleys expansion. There's also special player powers based off of your magician and stuff like that in the game, so you can add those to your heart's content. The other thing I forgot to show was there is a magician's workbook, which on the back will tell you the turn order and everything that you can do, and game end, what it explains, but it also shows you each spell based off their book. So this is the illusionist and what level they are. So you can look at this instead of it constantly having to, and there's 4, so 1 for each player, and you can look at the stuff that you want to plan for. Oh, bullet catch. Oh, that'd be really cool. I need 2 oil, 2 rope, and 2 metal. Okay, that's a level 16, so your fame has to be 16 or higher. But that'll give me 3 fame and 4 coins, and okay, so I can do that. So you can just look at this, and this will explain and hopefully help out. It will also, at the back, I just think this is awesome, give you hints on kind of what you might want to do at various locations. So the market row, it says hint 1, if you took a buy action, you may spend your remaining action on bargain. Each action point you spend on it gives you 1 coin discount from the total price. So it just gives you hints and different things, which I think is very, very helpful. And once again, they did a great job by not making it just have one of these books. Everyone gets one, so you don't have to share. It tells you about the dark alley and stuff like that, and then what those tokens do. But you don't need to worry about that. But that is how to play Trickerion. If I forgot anything, any minor rule, please let me know in the comments below, and I'll make sure to like and love it so it jumps up to the top so other people can see it. But other than that, like, comment, share, and subscribe, and have a wonderful whatever time of day it is for you. Hey everyone, thanks so much for watching this, and if you like this video, then click the subscribe button below to enjoy any video that I put out. And right next to that subscribe button is a little bell. Click that so you get notified of whenever I actually upload these videos. If you want to support the channel, you can definitely visit my Patreon page. The link is in the description below. Other than that, like, comment, share, and subscribe, and have a wonderful whatever time of day it is for you.